Okay, hello guys. Okay, welcome to the Veeam webinar for today. So today webinar will be the title of how to be a Veeam superhero. Okay, and this event actually has been the event that have been collaborating by the Infosyte as well as our principal Veeam. Okay, together. So we are very happy that we are able to invite one of the Veeam person, which is Mr. Rasmus for our talk for today. Okay, so before we start the event, so I need everyone collaboration so that in your Zoom, for those that haven't renamed yourself, so I need all you guys to rename yourself using this format, over here. Okay, this format over here. So please rename yourself with name, dash followed by your company name, and dash followed by the country, so that we can better identify who you are, and which company you are from, over here. Okay, so please rename yourself. So thanks everyone thanks for the people who have done on the renaming. Okay, so once again, welcome to the Veeam webinar. Okay, so without delay, so let's start on the webinar for today. So let us introduce myself. So my name is called Roy. Okay, Roy Chong. You can just call me Roy, and I will be the MC for this event for today. Okay, with me here I have my colleague, which is Daniel. Okay, he will be the co-host. So if you have any inquiry, or you have encountered any problem, you can direct message to Daniel. So he will reply you as soon as possible. And another colleague with me today will be Janice. Okay, so she will be representing our sales team. Okay, so if let's say that you have any inquiry regarding the sales information, you can direct message to Janice. Okay, and Janice will be in the meeting as well for today. Okay. Okay, so the three of us here actually are from Infosyte. Okay, and basically you might be wondering who we are. Okay, later I will do a brief introduction on the Infosyte itself. Okay, so let's start on the event for today. So first, let's look into the agenda that we are going to go through. Okay, so right now we will be on the opening and do an introduction to Infosyte. And later, I'm also going to do an introduction to our speaker of today, Mr. Rasmus. Okay, then after that will be the presentation by Mr. Rasmus, part one for 20 minutes. Then after that, we will have a Q&A session, 5 minutes. Okay, then we will proceed with the Kahoot quiz session. Okay, so for people who do not know, Kahoot quiz, basically when you join the event, we will organize 2 quiz, for this event itself, and you will entitled to win some gift, from the quiz event. Okay, so the gift will be basically the $10 US, Amazon gift voucher. Okay, so how to participate in the Kahoot quiz? Okay, later after the part 1 of the Q&A, I will guide you guys on how to join into the Kahoot quiz itself. So our quiz will have 2 sessions, part 1 and part 2. Okay, because the presentation have 2 sessions as well, part 1 and part 2. Okay, the Q&A also have 2 sessions. Okay, then after that, Kahoot. Okay, then finally, we will have a special announcement. Okay, special announcement on the today event. Okay, so for all of you guys, please stay until the end, because after that, we will have a special announcement here regarding the event, and that will be closing the event itself. Okay, so estimate will be ending by 3:10 to 3:15 of this event. So without delay, let's introduce ourselves. So basically, you might be wondering who we are, Infosyte. So basically, we are one of the Malaysia-based company that provide ICT training, to clients all over the world. And basically, we are also not only one of the Veeam authorized center, we are also others partner authorized center like Huawei, Oracle, CompTIA, and Microsoft as well. So this will be our credential. and a little bit introduction to Infosyte. So basically, we have been in the ICT training training field for more than 10 over years. Okay, so we started since 2009, and basically our trainer have decades of experience, okay, on their respective product they are going for training. And the trainer in Infosyte has been constantly improving on their training itself. Okay, so basically we also aim for better training to the client in the future as well. Okay, and our vision and mission, our mission is basically, as usual, is to stay committed and stay ahead of the IT technology so that we can guide our client or teach our client in the future technology project. Okay, and our vision will be inspire excellence through our sworn commitment to quality, innovation, and efficiency. Okay, so lastly, to conclude, okay, who are us Infosyte? Basically, we are one of the Veeam Authorized Education Center, VMCE, in Malaysia. We are based in Malaysia. Okay, that have been recognized to conduct their Veeam Certified Engineer, okay, VMCE program, okay, for the Southeast Asia. Okay, and our trainer have been training not only on the local, we also train on the global scale as well, okay, on the community. So that is basically a little bit introduction on who are us, okay, on the Infosyte. Okay, next I would like to introduce our speaker of today. Okay, so today our speaker will be Mr. Rasmus Haslund. So Mr. Rasmus has been the principal technologist at the Technical Education Service team at Veeam, and he is also the VMCETM program manager. So basically, all the engineer that require to be certified, or all the certified trainer that train the VMCETM will be certified by Mr. Rasmus. Okay, so Mr. Rasmus also has the VM Certified Architecture certification, as well as a VMware Certified Implementation Expert. Okay, other than that, he also won several community awards such as Veeam MVP and V Expert Pro. Okay, over here. Okay, so that's the profile of Mr. Rasmus. So that's all for the introduction on Infosyte as well as Mr. Rasmus. So without delay, so right now I will pass my session to Mr. Rasmus. So Mr. Rasmus, you can take over the session.
Absolutely, thank you. I appreciate the very kind introduction here. Let me just screen here. That should be the one. Can you see the screen okay? Perfect. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Really appreciate you taking the time to tune in here, and also a big thank you to the whole Infosyte team for arranging this, sending out the many invitations. It's a true pleasure to be here. The content I've put together for you today, it is basically called From Zero to VMCE SuperHero, meaning VMCE being a Veeam Certified Engineer. Now, as we've talked about here, Infosyte has the Veeam Authorized Education Center credential, but before we get to that bit, I wanted to try and give you some value here and maybe try and understand why does it make sense to even go on such a training. First of all, I've gone into the archives, and we've done many reports over the years with industry partners at Veeam. And this year we've put together the 2021 Data Protection Trends Report, and you can actually find this right on veeam.com if you want to take a closer look at this report yourself. However, inside I pulled out 3 quotes here. And why is it that it's important that we skill up? Well, because as it turns out, actually, a lot of companies out there around the globe are having issues. Why are they having these problems? Well, sometimes it's because of user configuration problems. Sometimes it's because of some power outage or natural disaster or just broken equipment. But we can't really prevent many of these issues. Of course, we can try and skill up and train people, and we can definitely reduce the user configuration errors. But in the end, we are only human here. So I know every week I can find a handful of mistakes that I made, but hopefully they don't take Veeam down as a company. So something that's more easily fixable. But don't forget, there was once upon a time a person at a very large public cloud vendor who ran a script with one typo that took down an entire region. So user errors can definitely have a big impact. And this is, of course, where having training can help us avoid a lot of those issues. Now, if we think about this journey here, how do I get started? Well, that's a fantastic question. So I've tried to put together a bit of a presentation here, because at the end of this journey, we have the VMCE, but how do we get there in a safe and a calm manner while actually maximizing the benefits of the time that I'm investing? Now at Veeam, we actually have a lot of free offerings that you can use, and a lot of these will allow you to essentially get your journey, should we say, kickstarted, as well as this more formalized education program. And I'll do the best I can as we go through the next few steps to walk you through what are these offerings. Now, as we go through, it would be fantastic to hear from you in the chat here. Maybe you've already heard about some of these offerings before. Maybe you had a look at them already. Maybe you've even completed them. So let me know in the chat here if it's something you've heard of before. The first step on this journey is what we call Veeam University. And I think regardless if you're someone who's starting out, you haven't even used Veeam as a product, or you've already been using it for some time, I think regardless, it's the perfect place to start. Now, instead of me pasting links into the chat and so on, I thought I would essentially put in some QR codes here, try and be a little bit more modern. So hopefully the QR codes work out well. Anyway, you should be able to scan these and take you right to the correct content. Now on Veeam University, we've put together a curriculum that essentially takes you through end to end, all the way from actually getting the product deployed, seeing how you can make backups, restores, data labs, and I wish I had time to dive into each of all of these topics here. So I'll try and keep it a little bit high level of the on the contents inside the course. But trust me when I say there's some really good stuff inside. And all of it's fairly bite-sized. So it's not like it's a ton of videos that are all many hours long. The entirety of this training is only approximately 3 hours. And I think my favorite part inside is that you basically get these knowledge checks at the end of every part of the training. And usually there's like 5 questions or so, which makes sure that you are sort of staying a little bit on point. We're not drifting away too much, but also that, hey, I actually did understand, right? You get this little confirmation for yourself that what you're seeing is making sense, that you're learning, you're taking in the information. Right, then we can step away, get some coffee, whatever it is we need, come back, pick this up again the next day. But once we've gone through this course, okay, well, great. That was 3 hours I just spent. I loved it. I want more. What could I possibly do? Well, I think once we have a good foundation, it's time to go and expand our depths. And while it's a great course that we have on Veeam University, it is only 3 hours. So what if you want to know more? Maybe it's about specific features, coverage for certain other vendors' products. Well, we've produced a lot of how-to videos. And once again, I've put the QR code here for you to easily go and find these. Not all of them do actually have knowledge checks, so I guess I shouldn't have put that there. But regardless, the videos are fairly short. Most of them are less than 15 minutes. Some of them are even less than that. So it's very easy to get started and start going through these videos. And we look at everything from classic virtualization to the far end of the spectrum with IBM AIX, Oracle Solaris, but also specific features like backups, restores, the explorers for doing application item restores, and so on. So really, this is a great place to get started and start filling up all of those potential gaps that you might have, or just your specific areas of interest. to make sure that you get the information that you need. Now, once you've gone through this, it's not likely that you might have questions, might be things that you're wondering about, because one thing is having a video, right? I think a lot of us, I saw earlier this was being broadcasted to YouTube. I think a lot of us have watched videos on YouTube or other video platforms. And hey, on-demand training is great, but I think definitely one key bit that's lacking here, and this is why I'm always a big supporter of instructor-led training that's live, is you can ask questions, right? I know when I'm trying to learn something new, I have a ton of questions and I don't hold back with asking them. Neither should you. But if you're watching a video, well, of course you can read the questions out aloud to yourself and then hope that maybe you somehow realize what the answer is, but that's not always so useful. So we are here to help and to make sure that you get the information that you need. The next step from here could be that you get answers to these questions, but I would also really suggest at this point that if you are someone who's truly new to Veeam, why not go and download the product, get it installed? Should you put this directly into your production environment? Well, I would say that's maybe not always the best solution. Ideally, we could have a sort of a smaller proof of concept environment where you put it, so no matter what you do, nothing bad happens in production. That's essentially the right way to do things. But look, nothing bad will happen just because you set up a new virtual machine, perhaps with Windows, and you start installing backup and replication there. So don't be too worried. Now, when you want to get a sort of guided installation here, we have these so-called Veeam Basics demos. And here I had to actually put in 2 different QR codes because I even had to contain myself. Originally, I think I had 4 of them here. But the idea is that these Veeam Basics are recurring live demos that are happening. You can easily go and sign up for on veeam.com across many different time zones. And they typically last about 30 minutes or so. And once you sit through it, they'll talk about, first of all, what does the Veeam architecture look like? What do these components look like that we have inside? So even if you don't know anything, we take you right through the whole process. Mind you, at this point, you shouldn't be coming in completely blank if you'd already gone through the previous information. Maybe you didn't watch every single how-to video, but I would suggest that you go through at least that 1 3-hour course on Veeam University, because it makes sure that the foundation is already here and the learning that you're taking away from the Veeam Basics live demo is taking you to the next level. What else do we cover there? Well, fundamental backup principles. What kind of types of backups do we have? Which types of sources would be supported for these backups? Where can we target them down and store them? And we also go into additional integrations on storage, cloud, and of course, most importantly, a number of resource scenarios. That sounds like a lot, but don't forget there's only 30 minutes. So what do you then do at the end? If you wanted something different, or maybe you wanted more, well, we have the second QR code. Here you can actually go and request a custom demo. You'll be connected to a systems engineer from Veeam. We ask you, do you give us some information ahead of time when you sign up for the custom demo on what would you like to see, right? Is it because we have to find the right person? Well, I think we have a lot of great people that can really help you here. But of course, if you want a good demo that's customized to you, well, ideally, we have a lab environment that's already up and running that contains exactly the items that we need to show you what you wanted to see. Right? So help us to help you in this custom demo. Now, I know we had a little bit of a setting with some time specific for Q&A, but I'm just going to take a quick look here in the chats. I didn't see any questions yet, but hey, don't be shy at all. Look, all questions are welcome here. Would love to hear from you. And whatever it may be, I can't promise that I know all of the questions, but I promise I'll do my best to actually come back with them, just in case I can't answer them live as we go through. Now, I may have slightly mismatched on the timing here a little bit. So, Roy, I think it might be a good time to perhaps go over and take a look at the first questions that we had on the Kahoot quiz before we go through the last section here, because the last section is a lot more lengthy, and I guess I was hoping for a few more questions as we were going through.
Okay, understood. So guys, if you guys have any question for Mr. Rasmus, you can actually post your question in the chat, okay, anytime that you think that you have questions. So after that, when Mr. Rasmus stopped the presentation, he will look into the chat and he will answer your question one by one, okay, over here. So, so I will open the floor to everyone. So anyone have any questions regarding just the Veeam University that presented by Mr. Rasmus just now? So the floor is open for anyone who want to ask any question.
Pull back.
Don't be shy and post your question in the chat. All right, Mr. Rasmus will answer your question one by one. Okay, so back to you, Rasmus.
Oh, thank you, Roy, and appreciate that. Great Kahoot quiz there. Yeah, very nice. Okay, so let's continue on the content here with step number 4 and official VMCE training. So once again, we've added a little QR code here just in case. Now, naturally, if you're looking to sit a 3-day class, the so-called configuration and management training, you don't actually need the QR code because you already have world-class instructors right here at Infosyte. So there's no need to look any further. Now, inside the class, we will, as you may have learned from the Kahoot quiz, I hope, it's not really to be expected to be a bootcamp training, but rather a actual hands-on essential skills training. So we want you to not go through 3 days where, okay, you got a lot of information dumped into your head. You can now come back the next day because, hey, Infosyte also has a fantastic Pearson VUE test center. So you could actually go there and sit the exam as well. But we don't want you to come back the next day and pass the exam. And then actually 2 days later, you already forgot everything. Because this is about value. It's about value to you for career growth, that you actually have real hands-on skills, that you really understand how does this work? What are my options? Because as we'll find out oftentimes, when you have the toolbox and you open it up, hey, if you just pull out a hammer, well, I'm sure we can smash everything with the hammer and that might be fun, but it might not always be the best tool to solve the task at hand. And as such, in this training, we'll really do the best we can to walk you through different outcomes, different tools. We have specific scenarios where we explain why is this the tool that makes the best sense in this scenario? Why is it not the best in another scenario? And what are some of the pros and cons of using it anyway? Just to give you some specific examples here, it could be that you've had a virtual machine, for example, where something bad has happened, and now you need to restore it because this one machine is no longer operational. Well, I could already think of maybe 5 different ways to bring this machine back. But the question is, which one is the best? Well, I don't know. I would need more context. What happens just before this machine became unavailable? Well, if you tell me, well, we had some sort of storage failure or power failure, and then everything came up again, except this one machine that didn't work, well, then I'll tell you already now, the feature we have that we call a quick rollback, or sometimes refer to it as an incremental restore, this is not going to be the right tool. But if you tell me, well, we did some updates in the operating system, and after we did those updates, we restarted the machine, and now the operating system doesn't boot anymore. Well, now I'm probably going to suggest you to use the incremental restore feature. So it's all about understanding the context of what happened, but also what are the tools at my disposal, and in this specific context, what is the right one? And for the classes that may be out there, where they just want you to take off in all of this information so you can go and pass the exam. The issue is just usually you don't really have any real hands-on skills at the end of those. Now, does this mean that you're not learning what you need to pass the exam? Well, I would say there's a massive overlap between the exam and the course. And with the course that's being launched as of next week, the version 11 training, well, actually, the way it is, the exam will only cover content that's in the training. Now, as I said earlier, don't forget, right? We set up world-class instructors, right? That's why we have Infosyte here. They have fantastic trainers. But even the best trainer will not be able to have you 100% engaged all the time. It's just not possible, right? Our mind can drift a little bit. Some of you might already be peeking over at Outlook where there's new emails popping up constantly, even as we sit through this presentation, right? We have a lot of things fighting over our attention. So I would say if the trainers having the peak performance, you have your peak performance, at best, you would maybe retain 80% of that information. This is under the most optimal conditions, right? So if we say, hey, just by listening and understanding everything, you're already down to 80%. Well, that means if there was something you didn't understand, your retention towards the exam is already going down a little bit. And that's okay, right? As I said, our aim is not that you can exit after the 3 days and then pass the exam anyway, right? So it's really not to be considered a bootcamp training, but rather we want to set you up for success here, both for the company you work for, but also for your personal development. Which I guess takes us to a good question that some of you may have, which is how do I then pass the exam? Now, before I get to that, just one little extra reminder here. You should be getting 10 days of lab access post-class, right? So class is 3 days. As soon as the class ends, if I'm teaching a training and I'm looking at some of the feeds here from some of the other trainers, I know the most common question I get is, when will the lab stop working? Well, take advantage because here you have 10 days. And it means the more times you go through those exercises, the more opportunity you have to take in the information or even go and explore, right? You don't have to do exactly the exercises we put in the book. You could try whatever you want. It's a completely safe environment. If you mess something up, you can just click end and start it again. You can do this as many times as you want for the 10 days. So this is really a massive benefit that you're getting here. And this is because Infosyte is using the official labs that Veeam provides. Some education centers build their own data centers, and then they only give you the 3 days of labs. But getting this 10 additional days, massive value add by really using the authorized education center here. Okay, on to the exam, because I want you to be successful here. Now, as we saw already on the Kahoot, it makes sense to use these so-called exam specification documents. And if you're thinking, well, where do I find this? Well, it's on veeam.com. Why did I not add a QR code? Because this is a document that could get revisions over time. And I strongly suggest that you always make sure you grab the latest one. So once you've been on the training, you can log in with the email that you used to sign up for the training on veeam.com/VMCE. And from there, the exam specification is available. If you haven't been in an official training yet, then it's not possible to sit the exam. So the course is required. If you've set an old version of the course and passed the exam already, then of course sitting the course a second time is optional, and you don't have to do it. It's technically possible to go and sit the exam and with the right preparation also pass it. But does that mean the course doesn't have any value to sit a second time? Well, I would say it can definitely serve as a very good refresher, because some of you may have been using Veeam for a long time. Maybe you were certified even on version 9. Now, when I took the version 9 exam myself, this was in 2016. It's a long time ago, 5 years. So of course, there are things that you use, features and so on with the products in your daily work life, but there's probably also a lot of areas that you don't use. And I always think of it this way. If you sort of take a blank piece of paper and hold it up, and then you start making some boxes of features or areas of the product that you don't use, and then make a big square that sort of says, well, I only work with VMware. I don't use Hyper-V. Okay, well, that's a square. What about tape? Yeah, we don't use tape. Okay, well, that's another square. What about Veeam 1? I've never used this before. Okay, well, that's yet another box. And all of a sudden you can see, how much of this paper have we blocked out now? Half? Okay, well, that means the exam is testing you on all of these things. So even if you remembered everything from the training, minus the 20% because of learning retention, well, then we might realize that we should probably go and study a little bit. And the exam specification tells you exactly the areas, the objectives that you'll be tested on. Of course, it doesn't list out the exact questions. Yeah, this is not to be expected. So how do I then study using this document? Now, this is a very long topic, and I could talk for days about that, but I've tried to take the best tips that I can give you on how to pass the VMCE exam, but any certification exam in general, and I've added them to a YouTube video that I've linked to as a QR code here, so you'll have a chance to take a look at that later on. Now, best tip I can give you here, though, is to use the traffic light approach, which means when you take the exam specification document, print it out. We shouldn't print too much, yeah, eco-friendly and all that. But personally, this is one of those few things that I actually do print. And I get out 3 different color markers. I mark it red, yellow, or green based on the explanations that I put on the slide here. Right? Do I understand how it works? Can I do it? Maybe I know how this works, but I couldn't do it without following a guide. Or look, I don't even remember you talking about this in the training, so I also can't do it. Okay, well then probably the red ones are the ones to start with. And then ideally, we get all of them up to the green level. So you've done all of this, and you're thinking, should I now go and take the exam? Well, I mean, you could, but I always say practice makes perfect. And as we learned in the Kahoot quiz here, there actually is 1 official and also 2 community practice exams out there. I've added a link in the QR code here. And why do we include the link? Is it because of shameless self-promotion here? Some would say maybe yes, but actually my concern is that if you work as an IT professional, at some point in time, if you've taken an exam, you might have encountered this phenomenon of brain dumps. And the issue here is they exist. And some of these websites try to pass themselves off as, hey, we really did write these questions to try and help you, but in reality, they are copies of the real questions. The problem is sometimes they make mistakes even on the questions, but especially on the answers. And you're trying to learn right now, so you don't really know if it's good information or bad. You would have to sit and very carefully look everything up. I would say, forget about this. Right? It's not going to help you. At best, you'll be learning wrong information, actually causing more harm than good. Remember, what is it that we're trying to achieve here? It should just be a validation of these good hands-on skills that you've been learning. If you just want a piece of paper, I mean, you could draw that yourself and hang it on the wall. It probably has an equal value here in the end, right? So what about these real practice exams? The number 1 mistake I see people make, unfortunately, is that they try to memorize the questions and the answers. This is not going to help you, right? Because the important question is, why is this the correct answer? And why are these other ones not correct? Simply finding the right answer is not overly useful because this specific question, of course, would never appear on the real exam. The key is this knowledge that we get from the understanding of why is it correct or not. And I can use this not only on the practice exams, on the real exams, but also when I'm doing my work as a professional around the different Veeam environments. And a little bonus tip here is just to say, hey, don't forget the exam covers both Hyper-V and vSphere. And for some features, there are some small differences and some features only available on one hypervisor. So even if you only in your daily life work with one of them, I suggest at least when you're preparing for the exam that you make sure you pay attention to this bit. I'm looking a little bit at the time here, and I can see Roy's getting a little bit anxious, so that's okay. I just have one more slide that I wanted to share, which is, what if you want more before you go to the exam? What else could I do? Well, Veeam has, in my opinion, it's easy to say that when I work here, but I genuinely mean it, we have very good documentation. And I would suggest that you essentially consider the official user guides. It's on the Help Center website as your textbook. Now, it's a crazy long document. Maybe don't print it out, but rather refer back to the sections that you identified from the exam specification as your weak areas. What I would suggest that you read through in its entirety are the release notes and the What's New documents. And why these last two resources? Well, some people have been using Veeam for a long time, and how something works could have changed. Limitations could have been removed. New features could have been added that we may have missed because it was a small thing. And hey, why not pick up on those last extra bonus points on the exam? In the end, we want you to be successful and pass. And we, of course, hope to see you in the trainings and on the list of people who are successfully marked as a Veeam Certified Engineer. Thank you so much for your time, but hold on, right? Because we have the next Kahoot quiz as well, right, Roy?
Yeah. Rasmus, we have compiled some Q&A in a slide, so I'll share the screen and show you. Okay. Okay, so you might be able to see my screen right now, am I right? So
yes.
The first question from the participants over here is that, is there any free license available for our own setup testing demo?
Absolutely. So actually, when you download the product, it comes with what we call the community license, which already allows you to protect quite a number of instances, because it could be physical workloads, virtual workloads, file share workloads. So absolutely, if you need something that covers more than this, just reach out to the Veeam team, and we can always arrange a larger license for your proof of concept.
Okay. Then question number 2 will be, the demo introduced earlier is running on latest Veeam product version?
So the Veeam Basics demo absolutely is going to be the latest one. For the custom demo, if for some reason you have requirements on an earlier version than the latest and greatest, I would just make sure to specify that. But if you don't tell them anything, I'm confident it will be on the latest available product.
Okay. Then question number 3, is this a new offer that Education Center will provide 10 days of lab access post-class?
We had some adjustments here. Without going too much into detail, we had some fun with licensing on the equipment we use. So we had to revise this offering a little bit over time. But as of version 11, at least, which is launching next week, we'll make sure that everyone has 10 days of lab access. If you recently set a version 10 training and you purchased a training from someone using the official labs on the Learn on Demand platform, you should have also had the 10 days of post-lab access.
Okay. Then question number 4, can you share other community source of practice exam?
Well, I wish I could, but the matter of fact is there is just the one official and 2 unofficial, and the 2 unofficial were both produced by me in my spare time in my evenings. So I'm sorry, there are no more that I'm aware of, at least. What I can say is that the one I actually produced with a video for every single question. So on YouTube, you can find 50 videos where I explain exactly every question. Why is it this answer? Why is it not that answer? And the second one, you'll have to do the work yourself, because we can't give you everything on a silver platter, right?
Okay. And a final question. Is there any question in the exam covers Nutanix AHV?
The good news is no, because the training also does not cover Nutanix AHV.
Okay. I think that's all for the question that I managed to get from the participants. Okay, because there are some participants who is on the YouTube channel, so they might leave the chat question on there, so we bring it forward into the slide and let you see. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Roy.
Yeah, welcome. So thank you very much, Rasmus, for his very good sharing regarding the event itself. Okay, so basically that's all from us for this event. So if you have any inquiry on the sales or on the technical, okay, feel free to email to these two email addresses that show over here. Okay, and if you want to know more about event, okay, more event that Infosyte or the collaboration between Infosyte and Veeam we're gonna do, okay, feel free to go into our website www.infosyte.com or like and share our Facebook or in the LinkedIn, okay, over here, okay, for more event in the future. Okay, if you have any inquiry, you can email these two email address or you can contact us, okay, using this phone number over here via a phone call or via WhatsApp. Okay, so that's all from me. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. So thank you everyone for joining the Veeam webinar 2020, and a very special thank you to our speaker, Mr. Rasmus, for his wonderful sharing. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. So I hope you guys stay safe, okay, and stay healthy. Okay, thanks for joining. Okay, see you guys in the future.